Hi and welcome back to another Trett Films video. This one's going to be slightly different in that I'm going to be talking about a film I made in 2008, 2009. If you cast your mind back that long ago, the video making scene was quite different. You know, there was less competition, there was less noise, YouTube was a much smaller space, and the technology was not as accessible. Digital video cameras were coming into place, and so were the video parts of DSLRs. But you know, I was 13, 14 around that time and just couldn't afford one, so I was shooting on an old camcorder that shot on like VHS-C tapes. So in 2008, I made a short film called Killer Spirit, which was a horror film. Sort of most contemporary horror films probably take their inspiration from horror classics like, I don't know, The Shining or something that's like a German expressionist film. For some reason, I found inspiration in the worst decade for horror, which was the 90s, and drew on films like I Know What You Did Last Summer.
I know what you did last summer.
You know, the film was shot for nothing. It was half an hour long. The only thing that really kept it going was just that I had some crazy ambition back then to pull this off. By all means, if you watch it, it's mostly terrible.
The hell did you just do? Me?
But at the same time, considering the limitations in terms of the assets I had and technology and that kind of thing, I think there's some moments of real ambition, and there's clearly points where I was experimenting with story and with character and with editing and all that kind of thing in there. And so yeah, I mean, like now everyone and their mum is making a film, but back then in high school when I was producing these films, no one, at least no one I knew was doing it, to the point where I was embarrassed to tell people I make films. We now live in a day and age of TikTok where everyone is making videos all the time.
Dab to the right!
So I don't know, maybe it's less of an embarrassing thing to admit, but I didn't want to tell anyone that's what I wanted to do. This short film was the first one where, you know, people started to take notice. My school put on a premiere for it. Oh, there's a good shot of the moon here, but we filmed it on a completely different camera. If it was a full moon, so I wanted to use it in the film. I still think that car hit looks pretty effective today, to be honest. People were always impressed by that shot. There's some terrible day for night effects. Here's the scene where things get emotional because like an acoustic cover of R.E.M. plays.
That's when you know things are getting emotional.
As he's walking through a field. I'm also pretty sure this was the day the camera stopped working and we had to go and heat it up. The camera's such shit quality that people's faces are just like around it with two black eyes. Here's me sort of expressing my emotional side of the filmmaker again with slow-mo and lens flares and David Bowie's Life on Mars. Very good, I say.
Dab to the right!
So it led to a couple of things. It actually led to sort of where my career is today, and any sort of piece of success I have in my career now, I kind of half lend back to these terrible films that me and my friends would make back then. I often say to them, you know, if we didn't make those sort of cringe-worthy short films back then, which is how I learned to become a filmmaker, I wouldn't be able to do half the stuff I do today. So as much as I've had some great teachers and mentors and support and studied at uni and that kind of thing, I really learned how to make films from making these awful films back when we were that age. So there's an editor called Peter Lambert. He saw the film. He's edited films like the second Mamma Mia film and The Death of Stalin. He gave me feedback, and there was a documentary filmmaker called Julie Morgan who saw it as well. So as a 14-year-old, to get that kind of feedback at that stage, when I was just sort of, you know, grew up in a small village in Norfolk, to receive that was kind of a big deal. So yeah, not totally relevant to what Trett Films is today directly, but it was part of the very early stages of myself as a filmmaker. I'd be really interested to know any of your guys' projects, whether it's filmmaking or whether it's something else, where, you know, by today's standards in terms of your skill and everything else, maybe they're not so great, but was a real sort of learning curve for you. If you want to see this film, you can't, because I'm gradually destroying every copy of it, like George Lucas did to the Star Wars Holiday Christmas Special. Alright, we're going to try and do a few more of these videos in the next coming weeks, so I'll see you in the next one. Bye.